Alright guys, today's lesson is on divisibility rules, as you can see here. And what divisibility rules are, they're supposed to be shortcuts that help us determine if a given number is divisible by a certain number. So if I was looking at a number like 240, okay, what I'm going to try to determine is that number 240. If I look over at my worksheet here with divisibility rules, I would want to know what 240 can be divided by, meaning can it be divided by 2, by 3, by 4, by 5, by 6, by 9, and by 10. And the one thing I can tell you is what we can always do if for whatever reason we forget the divisibility rules, if we forget the shortcuts, if I want to know something's divisible, I can always just try to divide it. So if I want to know 240, is it divisible by this one here? Is it divisible by 4? One thing I can always do is just try to divide it. And I would say 4 goes into 246 times. That's 24. I get 0 left over. 4 goes into 0 times. And we would find out that, sure enough, it ends up being 60. So is 240 divided by 4? Can we do that? Yeah, because we get a whole number answer, 60. So when in doubt, we can always just divide the numbers. But the divisibility rules are ones that are hopefully going to give us shortcuts. So if I have the number like 240, I can go through each one of these checks as shortcuts to see if it works. Okay, so I know just by reading the rules, I know 240 is going to be divisible by 2. It's going to be divisible by 3. It's going to be divisible by 4. It's going to be divisible by 5. It's going to be divisible by 6. It's going to be divisible by 10. The only one of my shortcuts that doesn't work is the number 9. Okay, now how did I get all that? Well, that's what we're going to go through right now. We're going to go through each one of these divisibility rules, and you'll be able to see which ones work and which ones don't. Okay, the first three we're going to look at here is the numbers 2, 5, and 10. 2, 5, and 10, because these are the ones that we're probably most familiar with. And my directions here say a number is divisible by, and then the given number. A number is divisible by 2 if the number is even. So again, a couple possibilities here is if I'm looking at a number like 12, well, 12 is an even number. Okay, an even number because the last number is an even number. Even numbers are numbers like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, things like that. So we're looking at the last number. So the number 12 can be divided by 2. If I have a little bit bigger of a number, like 114, well, I know 114 is an even number because it ends in a 4, and 4 is an even number. Okay, something like 1,317, this one is not going to work because the last number was a 7. 7's an odd number, so it's not divisible by 2 if it's an even number. The next one, the number is divisible by 5 if the number ends in a 5 or 0. So any number that we have that ends in a 5 or 0. So obviously we have numbers that can end in 0. These are all numbers that can be divisible by 5. Or numbers that end in 5, like 15, 75, 120. Those are all, that should be 125. Those are all divisible by 5 because all of them end in either a 0 or 5. The only things that don't work are things that don't end in a 0 or 5, like 23 is not divisible by 5 because it doesn't end in a 0 or 5. And finally, if the number ends in a 0, well, again, anything that ends in a 0. And again, I'll write down the same ones, 50, 60, 120. Those all end in zeros, so they're all okay. Okay, the next ones. Checking to see if a number is divisible by 3 and if a number is divisible by 9. Okay, I'm just going to read the first set of directions here because 3 and 9 are pretty much exactly the same. A number is divisible by 3 if you add all the digits of the number together and that number is divisible by 3. I'm going to go back to the original number I put on the first page, which is 240. Okay, if I want to know if this is divisible by 3, well, one thing I can do is just do it long division, like I did on page 1. But this shortcut here, the divisibility rule, says if I take each of these numbers, the 2, the 4, and the 0, and actually add those together, 2 plus 4 plus 0. Okay, well, 2 plus 4 is 6. 6 plus 0 ends up giving me 6. And then I check, is 6 divisible by 3? Yeah, 6 divided by 3 is 2. So because the answer I got when I added them all together is divisible by 3, then I would say yes, this number here, 240, can be divisible by 3. Okay, so you're simply adding the digits together. And it's the same thing for the 9. A number is divisible by 9 if when you add the digits together, it's divisible by 9. So if I take the same number, 2 plus 4 plus 0, okay, we already did that. That gives me 6. And then I go look and say, well, can I do 6 divided by 9? And the answer is no. Okay, so the number 240 cannot be divided by 9. It can't be. It doesn't work. That would not work in this case. So what would be a number that does work here for 9? I'm going to go ahead and get rid of a bunch of this ink here. Since 240 didn't work, a number that would work would be something like 126. Because if I add those together, if I do 1 plus 2 is 3, that 3 plus 6 gives me 9. And can I do 9 divided by 9? Sure, 9 divided by 9 is 1. And since that works, I know 126 works. It can be divisible by 9. Okay, so those are your checks for 3 and 9. Add the digits together, see if they work. A number is divisible by 6. Well, this is an easy one. If 2 and 3 works, then 6 works. All right, so again, I'm going to go back here and say our original number, which was 240. Okay, it ends in a 0, which means it's an even number. So I know that 2 works, okay, because it's even. And then if we did the 2 plus 4 plus 0, which is my check for 3 here, that gives me 6. And 6 can be divided by 3. So that means that 3 works. So that way, because those both work, I automatically know that 6 works. So 240 can be divided by 6 because it can be divided by 2 and 3. It's as easy as that. I'm going to clear the ink here, and I'm going to try to come up with another number. I don't even know if this works. I'm just going to make one up here. Let's do 254. Okay, let's check that. Well, let's see if 2 works first here. Okay, well, 2 works because it's an even number. Okay, so that's good. Now let's try the 3. We do 2 plus 5 plus 4. Well, 2 plus 5 is 7. 7 plus 4 gives me 11. Can I do 11 divided by 3? Well, no, can't do that. So 3 does not work. And because 3 doesn't work, all right, that means 6 does not work. Because 2 and 3 both have to work for this to work. And 2 works, 3 does not, but it has to be both of them. That's how I know that 6 doesn't work. Okay, to me this is the tough one. This is the one that a lot of people have a hard time with. A number is divisible by 4 if the number formed by the last 2 digits of the number is divisible by 4. Again, I'm going to keep going back to that first number, 240. Now, this rule is different. It's different than the 3 and the 9. I am not going to add these together. Not for this one. Okay? I am not going to do that on here. I'm not trying to add them together. What I simply want to look at is the last 2 digits. I want to look at that number, and that number is the number 40. Okay? Now I want to see, can 40 be divided by 4? And I might have to do a little work here to see. Okay? Sure. 4 goes into 40 exactly 10 times. So that's how I know that 240 is divisible by 4. Okay? Again, I'm going to go ahead and clear my ink here. And I'm going to come up with another number, like 1,312. Okay? And hopefully in your head you're thinking, you know if this works or not. Okay? So is this number divisible by 4? Well, I look at the last 2 digits here. The last 2 digits is the number 12. Can 12 be divided by 4? Sure. 12 divided by 4 is 3. Therefore, I know that 4 works. Okay. So that's basically what we're doing today. I'm going to go on to one more page here, and I'm going to go back and explain then how I came up with so quickly on that first page how 240 works. One of the questions I'm going to ask you is name all of the numbers that 240 can be divided by. The numbers that we're checking for are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10. We're trying to see which of those numbers work. Okay? Well, I'm just going to write down which ones work. So let's check for the 2 here. Okay? Is it an even number? Yes, it is. So I know that 2 works. Okay? To check for 3. Okay? So I know that 2 works. I'll just write my answers down here. Check for 3. If I do 2 plus 4 plus 0, that gives me 6. Can 6 be divided by 3? Sure it can. So I know that 3 works. Because 2 and 3 work, I automatically know that 6 works. Okay, to check for 4, well, the last 2 digits is the number 40. We just did that. We can do 40 divided by 4, which is 10. So far I know that 2 works. I know that 3 works. I know that 4 works. I know that 6 works. Let's check for the 5. Does it end in a 5 or 0? Yes, it does. So therefore, I know that 5 works, and I should put that in here somehow. 5 works. Okay, so that one works. The check for 9, again, I add these together. 2 plus 4 plus 0 is 6. Can 6 be divided by 9? Okay, no, it can't. So therefore, 9 is one that does not work, so I'm going to cross that out. And finally, my 10, again, I'm going to look at the last digit. Does it end in a 0? Sure it does. So these are all the numbers that work right here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 10. And that's just by taking a little time, memorizing our divisibility rules, and practicing them correctly. Okay, good luck with the lesson.